Morning. It's Saturday morning, and I thought this weekend I might film a cozy little chilled out reading vlog. I think I'm gonna have a good chunk of time to read this weekend because lots of the people in my life have plans that I'm not involved in, so I'm thinking I can just stay here mostly and read lots of books. I want to ideally finish the book I'm reading for book club. I desperately want to finish this non-fiction that I've been reading on Scribd, because I've been reading it for about 5 months, and it today or tomorrow it must end, because I can't have it hanging over me anymore. But yeah, I'm also going to be reading some War and Peace, some Les Miserables for 2 of the readalongs that I'm doing this year, and maybe starting some new stuff. So I just thought we'll have a cozy, chilled out, quiet little time, and I'll chat to you about the various bits and bobs that I'm reading, and we can just be chilled out together. So I'm also going to be doing, or hoping, let me start that again. Look at me thinking, I'll just start recording a video as soon as I've woken up and I've not had a coffee or anything. Words. In the other room, behind this room here, I am desperately trying to figure out why my previous video is not correctly exporting from iMovie. So it's very bold of me to start recording another video when there is a very real chance that I will not be able to edit it and export it and upload it. But that's why I figured I'll do something really low stakes and chill. And if you never see this, it's not the end of the world, but at least I haven't gone to the effort of putting on makeup and planning any content. Right, let's kick it off. I don't have much to tell you right now. I'm going to go downstairs, I'm going to make a coffee. I'm going to drink a lot of water because we were out last night for a family thing, and now I'm feeling a little ropey. And then I'll chat to you about what I'm reading when I've got stuff to chat to you about. So, yeah. See you in a bit. I've been reading my book club book in bed for a little bit, which is sweet. It's this, The Forge and the Flood by Miles Nelson. So Miles is one half of the husband duo who run a bookshop called Bookworm in Durham, which is not that far from where I live. And Miles is coming to our book club meeting in January to talk about the book, because if I eventually manage to upload my 2023 reading intentions video, which is still not working, by the way, and you've seen it by the time this goes up, you will know that I'm trying to read more local authors. And so Miles is going to be my first sort of local hero of the year. But the book itself it's cute. It's cuter and nicer than most things I read. And when I first started reading it, I found it really jarring at first, because I've not read a book like it in such a long time, because it's sort of animal fantasy. So it's got animal characters that are kind of, sentient and talk like people and blah blah blah, and it just took me a little while to adapt to that, but it is sweet. So it's got some slight sort of Romeo Juliet or Romeo vibes, really. So there are 2 kinds of creature. There's the Lutra, who are kind of otter-like and live on this island that's very plush and plentiful and beautiful. It's giving me kind of Pandora and Avatar vibes. And then there are the Allura, I think is how you pronounce them, but I'll check when I actually meet Miles. And they are sort of red panda kind of vibes, but they're very like fiery and they're like blacksmiths, and they live on this island that is very barren and their lives are very difficult. Their lives are existence, basically. It's working just about getting enough food, rationing everything you've got, and then rinse and repeat forever. But there are a sort of climate breakdown that happens, and the Allura have to leave their island and go in search of a new home. And they end up on the island that the Lutra live on. And it's interesting because there's some stuff in there about sort of refugees and how we treat people who come to our home looking for support, and also about culture and how important culture is to our communities, and how people react when they feel like their culture is being threatened or made less than someone else's. But essentially we are discovering through these two main characters. So Sienna is an Allura, fiery, this dude, and then Indigo is the Lutra, ottery guy, and their friendship ends up being the prism through which these sort of communities start to try and understand each other. But when they get to the island, they discover that the Allura have been here before, because they find ruins of their ancient civilizations on this island, but the Lutra don't know anything about them and appear to have forgotten that the Allura were ever there to begin with. And we are unpicking why and how that might have happened. So I think, it's sweet, it's lovely. I think it's not going to be a favourite, but that's not a criticism of the book, because I think it's a really good example of the genre that it is. It's just not like one of my favourite kind of genres, but he's exploring interesting ideas in it. I'm struggling to sort of like define the audience of it, because on the one hand it feels very like middle grade-y, sort of like I haven't come across anything in this book so far that would make me pause about reading it like as a bedtime story to a child. Do you know what I mean? I think it's very like child appropriate, but I'm not sure that a child could read it, if you get what I mean. But it's sweet. There's some interesting stuff happening, as we expect with a queer book, around gender, and the Lutra are they define themselves as fluid. Their entire culture is fluid, and people can love who they want, and they have this festival of love that is essentially a kind of love is love campaign. And Indigo's dad he has two dads, and they are the queens of their island, and so there's interesting so I wish some of that stuff was explored in more depth, but again, it's sort of like, I think that's me wanting the book to be different to what it is, which is not fair, because I don't think it's like if it was a grittier sort of, definitely for an adult audience take on this book, I think I would prefer it more, but that's not what the book is, so do you know what I mean? But yeah, so I'm enjoying it. It's sweet. It's a lovely little ride, and I'm very happy to be supporting a local writer, and I'm looking forward to meeting Miles. So it is. What's the time? That clock clock is wrong. It's 11 o'clock. I'm going to make some brunch and listen to my audiobook. I'm listening to, what's it called? Castles in the Sky? Castles in the Air. It's the sequel to Howl's Moving Castle, which I'm enjoying, but it's like one of those sequels that like exists in the same universe but is a totally new set of characters. And at first I thought maybe it's just a new set of characters at the beginning and then some of the old characters are going to emerge, but I'm like 2/3 of the way through now and I think I have to accept that probably Howler's not going to be making an appearance, which I'm sad about. But yeah, I will listen to that and cook some food and check in with you later. Bye.
I did as I did.
I think I have managed to fix my video by using an old laptop that has slightly more space on it, but it's been a faff, and because it's an old laptop, it has space but it doesn't have a lot of power, and it's gonna take hours to upload to YouTube. So that's what I've spent this has taken hours, so I haven't read that much more, but I am, while it is doing that, I have an e-reader on the go and I am reading. I'm sorry, I should have got my tripod because I'm probably making you feel seasick, but yeah, I'm gonna read Empire at Home by James Trafford now, which is a non-fiction book that I have been trying to read for months. I started reading it in a buddy read with my friend Anna from my book club, and I think she's fallen off the face of the earth with it, and I'm steadfastly continuing, but it's hard work. So it's essentially, so as the title suggests, it's about the legacy of imperialism and colonialism and how those systems and structures are still in place at home as well as abroad. I don't have enough knowledge or expertise, I think, to access this book. I'm finding it so hard to understand it. I'll talk about it maybe a bit more once I finished, which will probably be in like a bit. But yeah, it's written in quite a theoretical way, and I think with big concepts like that, I really benefit from having some worked through practical and tangible examples, and there are some of those in the book. And there have been some parts of this where I've gone, fuck, wow, okay, I didn't know that. That's great, but, well, it's not great, but great that I understand, but not great. But yeah, I've found it difficult, and I don't think a book has ever taken me this long to read, with the exception of where I've been deliberately slow with something. This is just hard work, but I think I'm going to finish it today. I also don't really like the writing style. I think the writing style is quite like, let me read you a bit. Whilst trajectories towards absolutionism, I can't even fucking say it. Whilst trajectories towards the absolutionization of coloniality and spatio-temporal regimes have produced the territoriality of camps and detention centres, they've also produced disassociated forms of movement through everyday life. What does that mean? Like, You've written this book, James Trafford. I already know you're cleverer than me. You don't have to be so fucking, you know, smarmy about it. I get bitchy when I feel inferior. Hello. It is now Saturday evening, about 5:45. For once, that wasn't me kicking you, that was the dog. I'll spin the camera around in a second so you can see him. But I have finished reading The Empire at Home. I actually finished it a few hours ago, but then I had to do a dog walk and my brother arrived he's staying with us for a few days. He's come up from down south, so that's lovely. And I thought I would just do a very quick check-in because we're going to go out for some drinks later and then have some food and probably watch a film. So I think this is probably most of the reading that I will be getting done today. So I thought I would just do a final little wrap up of the day. But yeah, concluding thoughts on The Empire at Home by James Trafford. I don't think it was a bad book. I just think I wasn't the right reader for that book. A lot of it went over my head. It felt very academic in a way that I think like is not necessarily correct for like a non-academic text. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think if you're going to write a book that's going to like mass market and like just to the general public, then you can't expect them to have an academic understanding of all of these things. If you get me, I didn't find it very accessible. That being said, I was just looking back through the comments on the buddy read that I was doing with Anna on Storygraph, and there were a few things that I thought I could mention a couple of these because there were a few specific bits and pieces where he gave specific examples of things. I was like, oh great, like I understand. But they were so few and far between. And when you're talking about these big global powers and trends, it all just felt so like intangible. But so one example, I've got my laptop here, so sorry if I've got a bit of blue glare. So this is an example of how some of these imperial powers are operating today, and how actually even with countries where Britain was not technically the colonial power, there have still been examples of how we continue to exploit and profit off of unfair economic systems, basically. And he uses the example of Mozambique. So Mozambique was never a British colony, it was a Portuguese colony. Yet, Mozambique's capital, I'm reading here, that's probably just going to be easier if I just read it. So Mozambique's capital, Maputo, in the capital of Mozambique, there is a company called Mosul, which is an aluminium smelter that's partially funded by the UK and the World Bank. So basically, we invest in it. And because it's coded as development, we then don't pay tax on the profit of that smelter, that business that we invest heavily in. We don't pay tax on the profit from that because it's development, because we're helping Mozambique. However, when you actually look at the money of it, $21 is extracted from Mozambique through that system for every dollar that the Mozambique government make. So it looks like we're like investing and helping out, but actually we are profiting off that investment at a much higher rate than the country who is supposed to be in receipt of our help is. And Mozambique remains one of the
poorest nations. So thanks us for our great investment. And so for examples like that, I thought the book was great. But they were just too few and far between for me, as I said. And like, I think what I would have preferred, and again, it's not really a criticism of the book. It's just why that book didn't work for me is maybe to look at, like that Mozambique example, 2 or 3 specific examples of how those things interact in a very like tangible and real way. So in like Owen-Jones's The Establishment, that book was so specific because it was like this company, that amount of money, this whereas this was all like macro, and it was too macro for my brain. So ironically, considering like I'm normally like, Hannah lost the plot, don't give me the detail, just give me the vibes. But I think for like big things like this that I am genuinely really trying my like hardest to actually understand, I needed some specifics. But yeah, I'm glad I've read it. It has really hammered home to me that I need to be kinder to myself in my non-fiction book choices, I think, because I think there are lots of things that I feel I should know more about. But reading a 300-page book is not the only way to be informed about certain issues, and I do struggle with them. I've got a stack of books in the office next door where, on reflection, I think I'm just going to pass them on and give them to a new home, because I think I'm going to find the same thing with those. I might read a few chapters. I might maybe in a few months, because I'm also reading a lot of nonfiction for work at the moment. And so I think I'm going to give myself like a break from nonfiction now for a couple of months. At least like nonfiction of that ilk, like issue-based sort of heavy nonfiction. I'll keep my memoirs and things like that on the go, but yeah, I might maybe do like try a chapter of some of those political books that I've got, because if they give me the feelings like this book gave me, I just think I need to pass them on. Because again, this is like, it's like that obligation thing that I was talking about in my 2023 reading intentions video, of not wanting to feel obligated to read books. I think when books come out about topics that I either care a lot about anyway, or feel I should be better informed on, there's a tendency for me to feel like I have to read that book. And like I said, that's not the only way to stay informed. And it might be that different channels are actually better for me on that. But yeah, so I'm gonna go downstairs. I might get a chance to read another chapter of The Forge and the Flood. And then tomorrow morning, I think I'm going to sit down with my classics, do some Les Mis, do some War and Peace, and have a lovely chilled time. So yeah, happy Saturday night. Bye. Head again. It is Sunday afternoon. I'm wonky. If you could see the state of the setup that is so unprofessional. I have been reading this morning. It's very cold. But before I talk about what I was reading this morning, yesterday I did finish The Forge and the Flood by Miles Nelson. It was sweet. It was sweet. I think it was too sweet for me. But in the same way that I didn't like... Yeah, it was lovely. And we always buddy read it on Storygraph. A few people from the book club do that. And someone made the comment that it was really nice that there was no big external threat, no kind of real enemy, and that all of the relationships and the conflicts were kind of understandable and workaroundable between the two communities. And I agree with that. But at the same time, like, I just wanted a bit more, like, stakes. I feel like the stakes could have been higher. But again, I also think that is that's the genre and the style and the vibe of the book. I think it's not like Miles was trying to put stakes in there and failed. It was not meant to be like that. So I think it was cute. It was cute. And if you've got kids who are like read like middle grade stuff, I think it's lovely. But yeah, I'm like not damaged enough for me, probably, but sweet. And then this morning I have been catching up on my Les Miserables readathon. So I had 7 chapters to read because it's supposed to be a chapter a day. I mean, not to get prescriptive about it, but most people are reading a chapter a day. And I was just finding when I was doing that, I think I mentioned in the reading intentions video that it just doesn't feel like the right pace for me to do a chapter a day, especially because now, like most people, what I know about Les Mis is the musical. And so it was weird to me that the first 70 odd pages are about the bishop, you know, that Jean Valjean ends up stealing the candlesticks from or whatever. And it's just about him for like 70 pages. So I've just read chapter 15, which is the first appearance of Jean Valjean. I'm liking it. I was a bit sick of the bishop after a while because he is a very good man. And as I have just said about this, like, a bit too good. He's a bit too good. He's a bit uninteresting to read about. But then there was a chapter which was really interesting between him as the bishop and this like revolutionary who's been sort of shunned by society because of his revolutionary opinions. And the bishop goes to visit him and they have like big philosophical chats about, you know, monarchy, etc. And yeah, it's picking up now. It's definitely not one that I like immediately grabbed me from like the first few chapters. I think it's picking up pace now, but I was talking to a couple of friends about it, and 2 people said, "Oh yeah, I never got past the beginning," and I can totally see why some people wouldn't get past the beginning. It is an interesting way to start, but liking it now. So I'm gonna have some lunch. I'm going to go to the Bound in Whitley Bay with my friend shortly. She needs to return a book or exchange a book, and I may purchase a book, perhaps. I'm not supposed to be purchasing books. I'm not on an outright book buying ban, but I did literally just say that I didn't want to... I'll just see how I feel when I get to the bookshop. And then this afternoon is going to be War and Peace. And if memory serves, as I said, I've read War and Peace before, but I haven't started the reread for the read-along yet. But I remember being grabbed by War and Peace pretty quick. So I'm hoping to do that. My plan is that I'll be able to sit for a little bit with War and Peace, work out how to sync the audio chapters with my hard copy chapters so that I know how many 15 chapters is, because my audiobook is wrong. And then hopefully I'll be able to do a little bit of crafty stuff while I listen to that for a little while. I think I'm going to London tomorrow for work, and what I would like to be able to do by the end of today is wrap up all my current reads, with the exception of the 2 that I'm doing for the read-along. So that would involve, I think I've got 3 essays left in a collection of James Baldwin essays that I'm reading. And I've got about, I think, only an hour and a half left, I think, of Castles in the Air, which has picked up, but still no how. But Sophie's there. If you've read Howl's Moving Castle, we've finally got some Sophie, so that's good. Yeah, so I'm hoping I'll be able to do that, because I have, like I think I said at the start, I've had quite a few books kind of hanging over me that I've just sort of, some of them I've been really enjoying but are just taking a long time, and that Empire at Home was a slog. And I quite like the idea of going into next week totally fresh and being able to just pick whatever I want. I think I'm going to start a vlog next week where I read Elena Knows by Claudia Pinheiro, which is the first book that I'm going to be reading for the Read the World challenge, and I said that I would vlog those. So I want to do that, but I also want to pick an ebook to read. I've got tons saved, so I have to think about what I fancy from those. But yeah, I'm feeling like I want to clear the decks, get tidy in my brain, and yeah, sweet. Well, I'm gonna go make some lunch, and I will see you in a bit. The next thing you see is probably going to be some interiors of The Bound, where I may or may not buy a book. See you later. Hello. Back to where we started, I think. It's now Sunday night. And yeah, I'm gonna wrap up here, but I have done some more reading and I have done some shopping. I think I promised you some footage from the inside of The Bound, but I didn't actually take any because my hands were full of books. But let me chat about my reading and then I'll show you my books that I bought. So I have started War and Peace now, and I didn't even need to worry about the chapters not matching up, because it turns out I'm an idiot, and the chapters did match and it's absolutely fine. But what is a little bit annoying is that the audiobook that I'm listening to and my hard copy obviously have different translators, but as it happens, I'm much preferring the translation of the audiobook. I think it's just got a slightly zippier writing style. I'm liking it. I've got hair in my mouth. But yeah, I am really liking that one so far. I'm glad that my memory of the book seems to be standing up. It starts and you're basically in Anna Pavlovna's salon, essentially. You're in her drawing room and it's just lots of aristocratic Russian people, and it's just a great little bit of social commentary. I'm not completely caught up on the read-along, so I think I've listened to 10 chapters, and I should have listened to 15 to catch up properly, but the chapters are really short when you're listening on audio. They range between like 7 minutes and 20 minutes, so I'll easily get back on track with that, but really enjoying that one. I am enjoying it more than Les Miserables at the moment, but I think Les Miserables just going to pick up as we go on. I think War and Peace has got that more like in media res. It doesn't worry about like establishing the scene too much. It just like drops you into a drawing room and you're hearing about all these people. And Tolstoy doesn't so much worry about establishing things, I think, in the same way that Victor Hugo does. But it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to brush up on my history of this period to read these two books kind of concurrently, because, you know, there's a lot of Napoleon in both these books. And obviously one is French and one is Russian. So that's going to be an interesting experience. So enjoying that. I've just finished listening as I was packing up my bag, because I'm going to London tomorrow. I finished listening to Castle in the Air by Diana Wynne-Jones, which is the sequel to Howl's Moving Castle. I liked it. I didn't like it nearly as much as I liked Howl's Moving Castle. And I think, I don't know, I just didn't sort of warm to the characters so much. And it's hard to talk about why that might be without spoilering you. So I won't, but like, I liked it. It was good. It's fine. Kristen Atherton narrated it again. And I think she's great. I would listen to any audiobook that she narrates. I think she's really wonderful. So that's those two. And I'm nearly finished the James Baldwin essays. I've got one left. So I am going to finish it tonight, but I wanted to wrap this up before that, because I do. This has been a bit of a hit and miss collection for me, and it's not a criticism of the writing. It's more about the content, and some of these essays are talking about artworks or books or films that I'm just not familiar with, and so there's like big chunks of it that it feels like I'm not accessing. I massively prefer the essays that are more talking about his personal experience and life versus the ones that are a bit more theoretical. Are we sensing a theme here? I don't really like theory. There's one essay in here particularly that stands out about his relationship with his dad and the death of his father, and I thought that was wonderful. This is the first thing by James Baldwin I've ever read, and I wish I'd read a novel of his first, because he's clearly a beautiful writer, and I don't think this is the best introduction to his writing or like his work, but I think if you have read and enjoyed his fiction, then I would recommend this. And again, I think a bit like with the sort of obligation stuff, I made myself read every essay in this collection, even ones that I knew I probably wasn't going to get a lot out of because I wasn't familiar with the subject material. And I just think I have to get better at going, you know, this is not my job. It's okay to read 3/4 of the essays in a collection and say you've read the collection and bar a couple of essays. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to be marking me, really? Don't say you. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, but it has made me really excited to get to his fiction. So yes. There's that. So that leaves me in a really nice position going into next week, actually. Barring some work reading and finishing this essay tonight, I now have nothing on my e-reader on the go. No audiobooks on the go, with the exception of War and Peace, which I'm obviously reading over the whole year, because it is 60 hours long. And I'm not currently reading a physical novel, so later on tonight or tomorrow morning I will have the really nice job of choosing 3 books to read, and I'm looking forward to it. I've got an idea of what I want to read in a physical copy, because I've got a book event an online book event that I'm going to on Wednesday, and I purchased one of the books today, so I'll be talking to you about that in a sec. But then, yeah, I'll have to have a little, maybe that will be my like little treat before bed as I have a glass of wine, and choose my books for the week, because yeah, I kind of want to read some different bits and pieces, because I'm doing a writing course next week. Not even like a course, just a little kind of 5-day challenge thing, very low pressure. So I want to think about what might be like good food for thought as I do that. So should I talk to you about my books? So I said in my reading intentions video, I don't want to be like impulse buying books. I just want to buy books that I genuinely think I'm going to really like. And I genuinely think I'm really going to like these books, so I've not even been bad. I will talk to you about them in the order that I picked them up in the shop. Should we do it that way around? Yeah. So the first thing I picked up was Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer, a signed copy, no less. I'm gutted because Maddie did a book event up here a few weeks ago, maybe last month sometime around Christmas, and I desperately wanted to go, but I was in London for work, so I couldn't. But I have heard just nothing but amazing things about this book. When Jen Campbell says it was one of her favourite books of the year, I shut up and pay attention. So this is about a family who are dealing with the mother of the family being diagnosed with cancer. And I think so. I mean, obviously content warnings, but if that is difficult for you, this might not be one to pick up right now. But I think parts of it, so they're dealing with the mother's cancer, like I said, and I think it is terminal cancer. But I've just heard wonderful things about the way this book explores that. It is very, it looks very experimental-y. I'm not doing it. Oh God, she's not doing a good job with that at all. Hardbacks are much harder to like flip through than paperbacks, but she's playing around with form quite a lot, and I think parts of this book are narrated by cancer, and yeah, I'm just really looking forward to it. But I think it's going to be a bit of a heavy one. I also, orange is my favorite color, and there's not a lot of orange books out there, so that was the first one I picked up. I saw it on the shelf and went immediately, because I do think I'm really going to like it. And I also think, wait, I don't want to get that on audiobook, and I don't really want to get it from, even if it was on Scribd as an e-reader, because you're just never 100% sure that the typography is going to be exactly how the author intended it. So that was book number 1. And I'm really looking forward to that one. And then I picked up a classic. So Virginia Woolf is one of my favourite authors. And I have never read The Waves. But I do know that it is lauded by a lot of Virginia Woolf fans as her best novel. I read, the most recent Virginia Woolf that I read was To the Lighthouse, and this is giving me similar vibes. But I also just think it's the most look at that. It's a vintage classics edition, and it's got French flaps. And I just think it's the most beautiful little thing. And I'm definitely looking forward to that. I mean, they've got her entire bloody back catalogue, so because I just think they're beautiful. But yes, so this was, again, this I don't think this was much of a gamble. I love Virginia Woolf's writing, and I fully expect to love this. Another one from an author that I like, although an author that I haven't read as much of, but earlier this year, I borrowed my friend's copy of Things We Say in the Dark by Kirsty Logan, and I picked up today another signed edition of her latest book, Now She Is Witch, which has just been published, I think, this week. So I'm like real hot off the press with this one. I really like Kirsty's writing style. I don't really know much about this, except it is spooky and witchy and so again, like I don't know if I'll love this one, but I think I will really like it. There was definitely some, as is always the case with short stories, there were some that I loved in that short story collection, and some that like I didn't love so much. So I guess it depends where this novel fits in the spectrum of those stories. But I have very high hopes. I think Kirsty's a great writer, so got that one. And then this is the book that I'm going to the event for. And one of the things that I wanted to do with my reading this year is read more local authors, and some of my favourite books from last year ended up being historical fiction, and that's not a genre that I necessarily like. If someone said, what are your favourite things to read, I don't think I would say historical fiction about myself, and yet there they were, historical fiction books, like near the top of my favourites from last year. And this is a historical fiction book written by a local author. So when I saw this book event was happening this week, I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to go to that. And then when I was in the Bound today and they had copies of it, I just thought, well, that's fate. And this is about a woman called Cecily, who is a woman embroiled in the War of the Roses. And it says, 1431 is a dangerous time for a woman to be defiant. England has been fighting France for 100 years. At home, power-hungry men within a corrupt government manipulate a weak king and name Cecily's husband, York's loyal duke, an enemy. As the king's grasp on sanity weakens, plots to destroy York take root. It will take all of Cecily's courage and cunning to save her family, but when will the will to survive become... But when the will to survive becomes ambition for the crown, will she risk treason to secure it? This is a war as women fight it. And it says down here, Wolf Hall for the 2020s now. I love Wolf Hall, so great. And actually, I nearly bought a copy of Bring Up the Bodies, which is the second one in the Thomas Cromwell trilogy, Hilary Mantel's. But I was being fussy because my copy of Wolf Hall is hardback, and so I really want the rest of the ones in the trilogy to be hardback too. I'm not normally someone who worries about stuff like that, but I think for an actual series, I like them to be the same. But yes, so this is happening on Wednesday, and this I think is going to be the book that I pick up tomorrow to start reading on the train down to London, because I would like to be, if not have it finished by the event on Wednesday, at least be a chunk of the way through, so you know I can ask informed questions, etc. And finally, this one is a bit of a shot in the dark, and I was basically, my friend was paying for her books, and she was chatting away to the staff, and they were talking about something, they were talking about an event, and I was just waiting patiently behind her, and there was this book, and all I saw was this. And if you've been here for any amount of time, you will know that I love me some Ali Smith. And if Ali Smith says this book is brilliant, I'm going to take a punt on it. But it genuinely sounds really interesting. I will read you the blurb, and then I will show you what this book is doing, because it is already reminding me of a particular Ali Smith book. So, where are we? So, this is Michelle. I didn't say It's called Scary Monsters, by the way. Can you see that? By Scary Monsters by Michelle de Kretzers. And it says, when my family emigrated, it felt as if we'd been stood on our heads. Michelle de Kretzer's electrifying take on Scary Monsters turns the novel upside down, just as migration has upended her characters' lives. Lyle works for a sinister government department in near-future Australia. An Asian migrant, he fears repatriation and embraces Australian values. He's also preoccupied by his ambitious wife, his wayward children, and his strong-minded elderly mother. Islam has been banned in the country, the air is smoky from a permanent fire zone, and one pandemic has already run its course. Lily's family migrated to Australia from Asia when she was a teenager. Now, in the 1980s, she's teaching in the south of France. She makes friends, observes the treatment handed out to North African immigrants, and is creeped out by her downstairs neighbour. All the while, Lily is striving to be a bold, intelligent woman like Simone de Beauvoir. 3 scary monsters, racism, misogyny, and ageism roam through this mesmerising novel. Its reversible format enacts the disorientation that migrants experience when changing countries changes the stories of their lives. With this suspenseful, funny, and profound book, Michelle de Kretser has made something thrilling and new. Which comes first, the future or the past? And so you can see here, that's upside down. So this is one story here, and the text is that way around. Yeah. But then you flip her over, and you've got the other half of the book is this way around. So much like Ali Smith's How to Be Both, that has the 2-part narrative where they're published in different orders, this is essentially sort of doing the same thing, except it's a kind of choose your own adventure, I guess, of which way around you read them. And I just think that sounds really cool. It might be gimmicky, but I am intrigued enough by this to want to give it a good go. So that has been a week of it's been a weekend of wrapping up some books, buying some books, and yeah, it's been nice to have you along with me. I think this is going to be a bit of a long one, so thanks for sticking around if you're still here. Yeah, I quite like doing these over a short period of time. I hope it's not felt too bitty, but it's been nice. It's held me accountable to actually get those little bits of reading done. You know, when you've just been reading something for a really long time, sometimes you need a little bit of a push or a deadline to force yourself to do it, and that's kind of how I'm using these reading vlogs. It's just a way to force myself to get to things that I wanted to get to. So I am going to go downstairs and watch some telly because I've done a lot of reading today, and then I will finish this in bed, and I will see you for another video soon. As always, if you have enjoyed this and you're new here, please like and subscribe, and let me know what you've been reading, what you were up to this weekend. Do you have any long-term reading that you are looking to get through, and how can I help? I probably can't help, but you know, I would like to know what are your books that you've been slowly sort of chipping away at and are trying to get finished, because maybe you should vlog it. I'm just saying, worked for me. Cool. Bye.